Welcome back.
Yeah.
Season 2, Volume 18 of Drunk on Ice on the Belly Up Network. Jay, good morning, brother. We got a couple things to talk about. We're reconvening after a couple weeks. It's been a very, 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 very busy sports season. All four teams are kind of converging on each other. So stop in. We'll talk a little bit about the Flyers. Jay, how you been?
Doing good, man. It's been a while. We've been on a little hiatus.
Yeah.
I know
Hey,
you were
listen.
away in Chicago. How was your little mini vacation? Or I know
Oh,
it's work, but
yeah, it was work, but vacation-ish, let's say. Had a really cool opportunity to present my school's community garden at a national conference in Chicago. So got a chance to put my school's community on the national stage and kind of promote our school and what we're doing, but also got to connect with some cool people all around actually all around North America. There were people there from Canada, Central America, Mexico, United States. So it was a really cool experience. Had a Chicago dog in Millennium Park. Went to a couple rooftop spots and sampled some of the frothier beverages. But it was good, and it was my wife came with me, so it was nice to have that like not interrupted kid time and just kind of reconnect together for the two of us. So it was cool.
that's great, man. It's always good. It's always good to get away. Of course, you got away during the busy time in Philly sports too. That's crazy.
That was hard because it was like I went away at a time where like I wanted to be in the middle of the city. And what was cool was like in the hotel lobby, we kind of reconnected anybody that was like remotely Philadelphia sports interested. So it was people from Maryland, or not Maryland, Delaware, Jersey, Pennsylvania. Like we were all sitting in the hotel lobby and they had nine TVs that were all like, how they do like that, they'll join them, make them all one giant screen. So they had the Phillies game on every night, which was great. And we ended up watching like the Thursday night where we watched the Eagles game, had the Eagles game on the iPad on the table. And then it was being dwarfed by this like 40-foot projection TV that was on the wall. It was kind of cool though.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I mean, I saw the pictures you posted. Like, I saw the TV. It was actually pretty cool. Obviously, not a good game, but
Not a good game, but and what was hard but cool at the same time is that there was a group of people from Houston also at this conference sitting 10 feet away from us, right? And they're having a very, very different experience than us during this process. So, but all that being said, Jay, and you got some good stuff going on. You got a little elevated promotion for your job. So congratulations to you. Good stuff.
appreciate it. Appreciate
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But listen, we're here. We got some hockey talk. We gotta catch up on the Flyers themselves. Talk to me about like because obviously very it's kind of like you're watching everything else, but you're kind of keeping an eye on the Flyers, just kind of checking in every once in a while. Talk to me about just generic first impressions about the beginning of the season.
I mean, obviously, coming into the season, my biggest thing was I wanted to see a team that actually gives a shit. I wanted to see a team that, put an effort on the ice day in and day out. And I thought that getting John Tortorella as the head coach would fix a lot of the ills that we saw with this team last year. And I, as you mentioned, with it being so busy and the Phillies and stuff, obviously Philly baseball to me is my number one. So I was pretty much non-existent in my hockey watching because of the Phillies being so
Yeah,
good. But I will say, obviously the games that I have caught and looking at what the team's been able to do to this point, I mean, I
right.
couldn't be happier. I mean, let's face it, like they're in a tough. Not only are they in a tough division, they're in a tough the Eastern Conference is pretty strong, and even with the Flyers being 7-4-2, they're only the 14th best team, but it's better than being the last team or that we're the second to last team like they were last year. But I don't really look at the record. I'm looking at the energy level on the ice. I'm looking at some of the players are performing. Obviously, Carter Hart the other night had a kind of a clunker, but other than that, Carter Hart's been pretty much phenomenal. And we talked about that on our introductory show, that the number one important player, obviously, I mean, it's pretty cliche to say it, but we all know that Carter Hart is the most important piece on the team. So to have him performing at his absolute best only bodes well for the team moving forward. Now, obviously, part of him playing better in goal has had to do with them playing better defensively in front of him. And those two things go hand in hand. We've talked about that. So, yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. Let's put it that way. But I'm happier, notwithstanding, I'm not really looking at the points and the points and the statistics part of it, but I'm happier that they are actually following through on what I thought would happen, that they would be better as far as their energy level and as far as their daily, basically giving 100% every single game. And that's what I want as a fan.
Yeah, I think for me, Jay, this is a not look at statistics, not look at the standings. This season is about using your eyeballs, right? Like look at the team and look at what they're putting on the ice and look at the product that they're putting on the ice, and you can tell right away what jumps off the page for me, at least in the games that I've kind of checked in on and seen and kept like half an eyeball on, because sometimes they're like the third screen, right? Like you got, like if there was a Phillies game on, there was a Sixers game on, and the Flyers game on, right? As I love the Philly sports, I keep 3 screens on to try to check in with all of them, but like they were the third screen and it was hard to keep up with them. But from what I saw and the stuff that what I was really trying to do, Jay, is go back and watch the games later on, right? And look at what we have in terms of the product on the ice. The product on the ice is so much better. It's so much better than what we're looking at from what we saw last year. It really is. And it's a time where you're getting to see what that product could look like if the talent is a little bit more, right? Because we know that the talent level that's on this team is not ready to compete with the upper echelon teams in this league. But I liked the style of play. The style of play could be really good for this city. It's going to be a thing that they've been able to get their product on a more elevated platform. So I'm really excited. I like what John Tortorella is bringing, because that team is going to be that style of play could be one that the team identifies with.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think, as you said, it's the eye test. It's what we're seeing. But I will say this much: like, you look at, if you want to look at stats to me that matter, that show kind of a change in philosophy,
right,
is the hits department. So, I mean, the Flyers actually have 2 guys in the top 20 in hits. When was the last time that happened at this point in the season? I mean, honestly, like last year's product was like almost like watching guys asleep at the wheel. And the philosophy change is glaring. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I was not really happy of bringing in Nick Delorias. And right now, I mean, he's one of the he's up, he's kind of every game he's brought his A game as far as what he brings to the table.
Yeah.
He's hitting everything that moves. I mean, the team, I know we've had, Jesse on a couple previous shows, and he talked about, the going back to the Broad Street bully mentality. And it's amazing that it's actually happening in front of us.
Truly.
Like the hits are coming and they're coming fast. I mean, Wade Allison the other night, like he was all over the ice.
Right.
I mean, he had I think he had 7 hits in the game, but I think he had 4 in the first 5 minutes. Like,
right.
It's just I'm seeing a difference on the mentality. And that's all to me. I mean, you have to give the credit where it's due. It's definitely Tortorella. I mean, that's what he's been, known to do with teams where he comes in and you know what? He's basically told them, like, if you're not going to give the effort, you're not going to play. And then, like I said, I'm not really looking at stats, but if you want stats that are jumping off the screen to me right now, it's Travis Konecny, because he's the biggest disappointment that I've had as far as me being a fan and my expectations of a player of where I thought they could be as far as who they bring, what they bring to the table and how they perform. It's Travis Konecny, and he's leading the team in points right now. Now, I know it's early, but hey, kudos to him, because obviously Tortorella has tapped into something that's kind of been missing there, with Konecny. And if that's the case, if it takes a coach like that to get this team over the top, hey, I'm all in, man.
Yeah. And Jay, I mean, not for nothing, but he's also leading, obviously he's leading the team in points, like you just said, but also goals and assists right there. He's been their best player so far this season. He's a guy that has really taken to the opportunity to be able to elevate his play based on the style of play. I really think the style of play is he's finding it really conducive for his success on the ice. So I'm all in on that, right? And you've seen, right? You've seen the benefits of some of the additions, right? You spoke about Nick Deslauriers, right? Nick Deslauriers is a guy who, could have some people were kind of on either side of that addition to this team. He's been as advertised. And I know there are people on their coaching staff that are kind of thinking in the same line, right? That aggressive, right? Really enforcer like play. So I'm looking at that and I'm going, this is exactly what this city needs. This city needs a team that it can identify with, because we know they're going to be better than they were. But I think we would all be drinking orange Kool-Aid if we said that they're going to sit at the top of or not sit, but that they could compete with some of the teams that are at the top of the NHL.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, talent generally trumps all. But I will say in hockey, it does take a team to win a championship. And we've seen crazier things. I mean, we just witnessed the Phillies get in with the last seed in baseball and basically go to within 2 games of winning the World Series. And they weren't the most talented team, but what they were is a team that got hot at the right time. And they're a team that had that mentality that they weren't going to lose. If the Flyers can continue to play the way they are, they might not lead the league in points. They might not lead the league in statistics, goals scored, yada, yada, yada. But what the Flyers can do is make the playoffs and be a scary team. And listen, I'm not predicting that, but if they continue to play the way they are, they're going to feed off that positive energy. And the more that you start winning and the more that you start seeing that what you're doing is working, the more you start believing in yourself. And I think a lot of the time, if you look at the Flyers of the last couple of years that have struggled, it's almost like they just got off to such bad starts where they were basically pressing and trying to do too much, combined with not having a lot of talent. And you take those two things together and you mesh them, and it's not a good mix. I mean, it's not a good. It's basically a recipe for disaster, and that's what we saw. But this year, you're like I said, you're seeing a team that's actually showing that they believe in what Tortorella is preaching, because it's coming out on the ice. I mean, listen, I love old school hockey. I love fights. Listen, there's nothing wrong with admitting that. I love
No,
it.
not at all.
I love watching it. To see the 2 fights the other night that I saw was unbelievable. Like,
Right.
to see that in a game again, for me, is exciting. It
Mhm.
brings excitement. But I think one thing that it does, it shows other teams like, hey, wait, we thought the Flyers were the doormat last year, but they're playing different this year. There's something different there. And what is it? It's that edge. It's an attitude. It's basically like, okay, well, maybe we won't beat you on the scoreboard, but we're gonna pummel you, and you're not gonna like coming to play against us. And
We're gonna let you know where you are.
yeah, absolutely. And I love it. That's the kind of hockey that I love. And like I said, the Flyers could be 0-60, but if they were giving a shit and giving effort, I would still be happy that at least they're showing up and they're to me, that's what Philly's about. It's blue collar. Yeah, at the end of the day, we won a championship. I mean, I get it. Yes, we haven't had that since 75. I mean, it's been a really long time.
Jay, we're pushing almost 50 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm 46, and they won. I was born in 76, and they won in 75. So do the math.
Yeah.
They haven't won a championship in longer than I've been born. So, but yes, what I'm saying is, and I know people will, I don't know who's watching and the viewers, they might say, well, that's crazy to say you'd be okay with a team that's 0-62. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying I'm okay with losing. But what I am saying is that when I watched the team last year, I ended up not watching because as a fan, I was so disgusted with what I was seeing. I couldn't watch anymore.
Right.
At least this year, like I said, I'm not looking at, okay, well, they have to be, perfect or they have to score 20 goals a game. What I wanted to see was a team that cares. And this team is exactly that. And that's what I'm saying. That's what has me excited again to be a Flyers fan. I'm not saying I've watched every second of the games because, as I mentioned, we were plugged into the Phillies. I mean, that's just how it is. But
listen,
now that
Jay, when you've got all 4 teams playing at the same time, like you only got 2 eyeballs.
But now that the Phillies are over, you can rest assured I will be watching every game again. I will be plugged in because, as I said, I like what I see. I love the fact that, this team has an edge again.
Yeah.
We're not just rolling over. We're not watching guys on our team get hit and just stand around and say that's okay.
They don't feel transparent anymore.
Facts.
Like that, and that to me, like I like what I'm seeing from Carter Hart, right? I think Carter Hart is getting to see some of the benefits of having guys in front of him that are going to enforce a little bit and maybe protect his ability to be able to navigate that space in front of the net without feeling like he's looking through camouflage to try to find the puck. So I like the way that he's looking, and to me, a guy that I looked at, a guy that they added last year, right? Tippett has shown flashes of being able to be the guy that I think Florida thought he could be. So, again, I'm looking for where are they at, right? If this is the first, if this is our first evaluation of this team, I'm looking at the next time we reconvene. Did it get better, right? Is it improving? Are we seeing, right? Are as long as I'm not seeing regression, I'm good with this team. I'm good. I want to just see progress, even if that's incremental progress, even if it's slow. I'm still looking at this team and going, I want to see guys get better. As long as guys are getting better, and Jay, that speaks to your point, right? It doesn't take much in this city for the city to love you. You really just, like you said, you really just have to give a shit. As long as you're putting effort in, and as long as you're dialed in, good Lord, this city will love you. The second that you feel like you're not putting an effort in, man, it's over. You're gonna hear the boos, you're gonna hear all the craziness, man. But I'm excited. I'm excited. And Jay, if we look ahead at the schedule, right, tonight's gonna be a big night for those diehard Flyers fans, right? Because tonight they're playing the Senators, but Giroux is coming back. He'll be back in the building. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of 28 jerseys rolling around the Wells Fargo Center. Any thoughts about him coming back?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, obviously, Claude Giroux, I think it was, at the end of the day, obviously a mistake to get rid of him. But I know, we had to do what we had to do. And
Yeah.
I know a lot of people still trash the GM. And listen, I'm not happy with the GM. I've made that known. I don't think Chuck Fletcher's the answer long term, but that's just my opinion. But Claude Giroux, I mean, how can you not love the guy as a person? He's a model citizen. He's a great guy. He's a guy that, you talk about guys that are, use the term overrated and underrated, and I hear a ton of people that go around saying that Claude Giroux is overrated. See, I have a hard time saying he's overrated because, to me, I think hockey, more so than probably all other sports, is a team sport. Okay. And when you don't have the talent around you, yes, I've witnessed star players carry teams, but it's few and far between. I mean, obviously,
agreed.
And the people that want to point to teams like, or players like Wayne Gretzky or Claude Lemieux, or not Claude Lemieux, Mario Lemieux, guys like that, they had a lot of talent around them. Like, those teams were littered with talent. I mean, that Edmonton team, yeah, of course they were good. They had Wayne Gretzky, but they had everybody else. I think during Claude Giroux's tenure, he might have had 1 year, like 2010, which to me was the outlier. Like, that was the year they could have won the cup, and nobody expected that team to be there. I mean, that team to me really was, if you want to talk about overachieving, they obviously overachieved that year because they weren't expected to get that far.
Definitely.
Especially not with the goaltending situation. I think that's the one positive that you can take away from this team is that we do have a goalie that is the answer. I mean, Carter Hart, to me, the ultimate goaltending stat, I know a lot of people pull up goals against, but goals against is a team stat because if the defense is playing bad, you could have a bad goals against. But when you have a .941 save percentage and you're leading the league, I mean, that's saying something. This guy's definitely a top-tier goalie. It's just a matter of protecting him. And the way that this team's playing, they're finally protecting Carter Hart. And that's good to see. I mean, it's a great sign. But, yeah, back to Claude Giroux. Like I said,
he's a guy that I love. He's a
definitely missed the guy. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. And he was a guy who, the thing I love, right? The one thing that my barometer for athletes, right? If I don't read about them on any other place but the sports section, I'm good, because that tells me like I don't have to worry about all the extracurricular stuff. He was always good to this fan base. He was always good for this team. The Flyers just made a decision that they had to move on to be able to kind of start that next chapter. But I'm sure people will be really excited about seeing him back in the building. And Jay, before like they got a couple things coming up, right? The Flyers, they're going to play the Stars on Sunday at 1, and it's Military Appreciation Day. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't kind of shout out and mention Veterans Day yesterday, and anybody who's involved in any level of service, right? I've got some cousins who are Army, Navy. My dad was Army. Anybody who served, anybody who is involved in law enforcement, that kind of stuff. First responders, that anything where we can celebrate the people who make those sacrifices, man, all for it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And then they'll play the Flames on Monday. So they play Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right? And then they don't play again until they have their annual Black Friday game against the Penguins. And then the Flyers are kind of stealing one from the Phillies a little bit on Tuesday, November 29th, Jay. That is a $1 dog night.
They
they got some cool stuff going on. But anything else you wanna chat, Jay, before we roll out of here? Anything? I
think just that I'm excited about this team again, and it's just good to see old fashioned hockey.
Yeah.
and effort, something that's been lacking for a long time.
Yeah. I'll have to look into this. Atkinson going back to he's back. Apparently he's back in Columbus skating on a medical. But listen, if that's something that they decide to move on from, and they can get somebody that's going to be able to be beneficial for this roster, I'm all for it. Anything that's going to help this team move on, I'm good with. All right, Jay, give me on our way out, final thoughts, something that you're going to look forward to in the next upcoming stretch of games with this team.
So I would like to see Carter Hart obviously bounce back from the game that he had the previous game, which was kind of a clunker. But obviously it was a team effort. They didn't show the same pizzazz that they've had in previous games. So I'd like to see Carter Hart bounce back. And, I want to see if there's a guy on this team that I'm kind of waiting on. It is Tippett. Like you said, he's shown flashes, but I really would like to see Tippett. And I also would like to see something from Morgan Frost because, we've talked about him so often. And it's almost like this is his last go around. This is his last time to prove if he's willing, if he's worthy of moving forward with this team. Because you're going to need your guys that you drafted higher to produce. And the Flyers, that's one thing they haven't got a lot of. So they're the two guys I'm focused on coming forward. Obviously, Zach McEwen is bringing his A game as far as what he brings to the table.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, for me, Jay, moving forward this next handful stretch of games, I'm looking at all the young guys. I'm looking at that group of young guys that they got that, are going to be the guys that can be key pieces for this team to be able to kind of transition to that next level. So if I can see, the Wade Allisons, the Zach McEwens, right, the Noah Cates, Morgan Frost, like that whole, maybe not those guys specifically, but looking at that core young group of guys to be able to start getting better, right? This is not about statistics, not about standings. This is about what you're seeing from the guys on the ice and are they getting better? So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at those guys moving forward and just try to keep it going, man.
Absolutely.
All right, brother. Listen, before we head out, right, Jay, we got to talk about our sponsors a little bit, right? We got we got La Terrain luxury watches, right? So if you need your luxury watches, go check. All of this information is all in our link tree. So if you go to the top of our Twitter bio, right, you're going to see the link tree there. I'm going to share the screen just for posterity purposes. But we got some technical difficulties here, right? So if you go to the top of our link tree, right, you're going to go to La Terrain is right up there with getting your luxury watches. We got Team Clicks, which is your team-themed eyeglass wear. We got Shocked Energy, which is now part of Level Up Snacks. So you can go check them out for all your healthy style energy drinks. We got Streaker Sports, which is your retro vintage wear. They got some cool vintage Philadelphia stuff. They got a whole Philadelphia section, some teams and franchises I didn't even realize existed. But they also have some cool movie stuff. And then we got our new sponsor, Von C Brewing, which is a brewery over in Norristown, right on Sturgis Street. So, go check those guys out. They got a lot of cool stuff going on. They always have with the tasting room. They always have a good food truck going by, so you can go on their website you check click on that website there, it's going to take you to their website, give you their full rundown of their food trucks and all the good stuff that they got going on there. Just a lot of really cool stuff going on here. And Jay, go Flyers.
Go Flyers.